Welcome one and all to our webinar tonight. Our webinar tonight is on the behalf of the Worshipful Company of Glaziers and Painters of Glass. And the topic is, sorry. So tonight, what we're going to do tonight, I will quickly tell you. So tonight we're going to, first of all, we're going to hear from Master, and then we're going to have two presentations from Kathy and Joost, and we're going to have questions and answers, and then Liz Clark will be giving closing remarks. So and before all that, we're going to have two polls. So tonight, our presentation, we have two worldwide renowned artists, Joost Caen and Kathy Jordan. I'm going to tell you a little bit about each of them. So Joost Caen is Emeritus Professor of Conservational Restoration at the University of Antwerp. Since 1985, he has run his own studio for the creation and conservation of stained glass, where he is still very active. He's a member of Flemish Commission on Monuments and Sites and cultural ambassador of his native city, Roeselare. He's also author of numerous articles and books on stained glass art. As a member of the Corpus Vitraeum, he's published, amongst other books, a series of 5 volumes on small and medium-sized stained glass panel in Flanders. And our second presenter is Kathy Jordan. She has over 35 years in stained glass industry. She's not only valued on her artistic mastery, she also has a respected career that includes studio owner, consultant, designer, and practitioner for new and historically significant glass projects across the United States. We also will be joined by the master glazier, David Stringelamar, and the event will be hosted by glazier liveryman, me. So welcome to our first, we're going to have 2 voting in which you can, we're going to have, so you have a chat as well. You're welcome to say hello in the chat, but in a minute we are going to be posting our votes. So first of all, we'd like to know whether you join, where you're joining us from. So Liz, would you? Okay, so you have a question there. And you have, are you a member of Worshipful Company of Glaziers and Painters of Glass? And you can choose whether you're a glazier, you're interested in joining, or none of the above. We're going to have 1 minute for you to answer those. Please vote. Tell us whether you are a glazier, you would like to join, or none of the above. We have 20 seconds to go. Thank you. And now we have a second question. Also, we have results. So 75% of you are glaziers. Congratulations. 8% are not glaziers yet, but they would be interested to join. And 17%, less than 1/5, are none of the above. And now we're going to have our second panel vote to see if we can. So we are very interested, and you also please feel free to use our chat and tell us where you're from. But we would like to know whether you in the UK, in the EU, in the United States of Canada, Australia or New Zealand, or elsewhere. Please vote for this second vote. And we're going to have a minute. and then 20 seconds. I hope everybody voted by now, and we can close the vote. Thank you. And as I said, so we have the results are, we have 92% are in the UK, 0% are in the EU, United States or Canada, we got 8%, Australia and New Zealand, 0, and elsewhere, 0. So mainly we have UK, United States. Excellent. Thank you for this, Liz. And now I would like to introduce David Stringer-Lamar, our master.
Thank you very much indeed, Mariana. Very much looking forward to this discussion about international approaches to stained glass. I'm joining you from the city of London, where it's a nicely cold and grey day, no doubt not as exciting possibly as the USA or Belgium. Big thank you, of course, to our two experts here, Joost and Kathy. Now, of course, I've always been very interested in this whole concept of creativity within stained glass art world. And of course, not just creativity today, but also in the past, but also what it actually might look like in the future. And of course, of the Glaziers, we have many international members, so it's terrific that we have two top international artists and members of the Glaziers with us today. Also, I believe webinars are a terrific way of engaging with our members who are not here in London. And of course, we do have members all across the UK and across the world as well. I'm sure this is going to be an excellent, very engaging webinar. And I just wish to formally thank our two main speakers, Kathy and Joost, and of course, everybody involved in the organisation of it. Thank you very much, Marianne.
And now I would like to introduce Joost to present his presentation. Thank you, Joost.
Thank you very much, Marianne, and thanks also to our master and Liz for asking me for this webinar and for all the preparational work. I welcome all attendants, the people who are with me tonight and with every one of us. I would like to start my short presentation with a personal view on the state of art of stained glass production in Belgium and in Europe. We are happy that we can look back at a centuries-long tradition on stained glass production. And up to now, we see that in several countries, not at least in Britain, for instance, there has been never any interruption in the production of stained glass. And we also notice that during that long history, there have been quite important innovations. There has been the invention of all kinds of enamels and sanguine glass paints. There have been the introduction of all kinds of glass, starting from crown over cylinder and other kinds of glass and all kinds of techniques. What we see at the present is that there is a lot of study on ancient glass in many universities. Especially chemists have shown a special interest since long in the composition of glass and also composition of glass paints. And one of the most important researchers was Roy Newton years ago. But later on, also in the States, Robert Brill and so many other researchers up to now have contributed to the knowledge of ancient glass and glass paints. But unfortunately, in my opinion, there has been little crossover from this knowledge to the people who are creating stained glass nowadays. And it seems that there is a gap between, on one hand, the people in the academic field studying ancient glass and the people active in the creative field, where and that's my personal opinion, where I believe many aspects of old techniques and many aspects of that come up in while we are analyzing glass and glass paints could be of high importance for contemporary artists, and especially also when we deal with the durability of our creations that we create nowadays. Part of this problem is due to the fact that in Europe, several schools, several art academies and polytechnics and even university programs have been closing or have reduced their activities in the field of stained glass. So on one hand, we see that especially in the field of art history and the field of chemistry, there's still a lot of ongoing research, but unfortunately, in terms of high quality training, high quality education in stained glass, we see that there is a kind of shrinking of the opportunities. On the other hand, and that's important, we see that there is a growing opportunity for glass, artistic glass in public buildings, and there are also a lot of innovative techniques available. And also we see that there is an interest of the broad public. And recently there was the Cité de Vitrail that opened in Troyes in France, and apart from that center, there's also Chartres, Poitiers in France. There is the Glass Museum in Ely Cathedral. There is the museum in Linnich and in Romont. Linnich is in Germany, Romont is in Switzerland. So there are opportunities, but also there are some problems in Belgium and Europe. Next slide, please. Thank you. When we look to the future, and I mentioned it already, in contemporary building, we see that there are quite interesting possibilities for glass and artistic glass. And we see also that there is a growing importance for several light approaches. And we can deal with color, radiance, transparency, but also with the meaning of light and a spiritual or even philosophical dimension of the light. And I see a growing interest in these aspects and a growing longing, really looking around for contemporary applications of glass art. It's also important to think about the transfer of scientific knowledge, as I said, of ancient and traditional techniques towards contemporary creation. I believe that certain universities and certain polytechnics and art schools could in fact benefit from what's happening in the field of natural science and art history, for instance. There's also a growing openness towards innovative techniques and contemporary technology. And there are interesting possibilities with solar cells, with printing on glass, and all new techniques that can be combined with traditional glass painting. And we see that, for instance, in Germany, there are quite interesting examples of that. I myself, I had my first project with solar cells, photovoltaic cells, more than 20 years ago. Unfortunately, I did only a few projects in Belgium, and after that, there was little interest for that technique, although it's a technique that could be also interesting to be applied in modern building, especially because of its sustainability aspects. Well, there's also an interesting opportunity for the future, is that seeing the limited number of institutions and schools, we should intensify our collaboration, and especially collaboration to the benefit of the studios and the people working in the studios. And what's happening today about the impact of pollution and climate change in our society is probably also an opportunity, because on one hand, the climate change threatens the condition of many windows, but on the other hand, thinking about improved techniques could also, in fact, give a boost for new and innovative approaches for stained glass art in contemporary building. Next slide, please. As I am retired since 2 years now, and I'm still a little bit active in the academic field with my own university, but also with the University of Amsterdam and some other institutions in Europe. So I'm still available out of my experience to answer deeper questions about creation and conservation, restoration of stained glass. So people are consulting me, and people who want to consult me, they are most welcome to send me emails or send me a paper letter with their questions, and I'm happy to help if I can help. I still go on giving lectures and workshops everywhere where I'm invited. And I do that more than ever because I have a little bit more time now. And I like to do it, and I like to help people whenever they are confronted with problems during their creative process, or with problems concerning conservation and restoration of glass and stained glass. I keep on publishing, and I'm willing to publish together with other people when I can be of any help. Of course, my specialization is mainly on the techniques and materials of stained glass, but I have a special interest also in, for instance, publications on artist creativity and innovative techniques, like, for instance, photovoltaic cells, solar cells. I don't think there have ever been a good publication about that, and I would love to contribute to the field in collaboration with other artists. My studio is not a very big studio, so I don't have a lot of place, but from time to time, I can have interns in my studio for a short period. And last but not least, I'm happy to announce that I am trying to establish a museum and study center for stained glass in Belgium. Last week, I had a meeting with our minister responsible for monuments and sites. And so he was very positive, and I hope that I will be able to announce in 2024 the establishment of a stained glass museum based on my own collection and library. And of course, if we are successful, then we will be able to help much more people in the future with their questions and concerns concerning stained glass. So I will now close my little lecture, and of course I'm willing to answer questions after the next items, but I'm happy to give the word now to Kathy, very, very good colleague from the United States, working with a wonderful technique of glass painting techniques. So Kathy, go ahead.
Thank you, Joost, for that introduction, and thank you, Master, for inviting me today. All the work that you put into this webinar and to making sure that I got all my slides to you. I'm following a little bit of a format that you started. I'm hoping to touch on the things that I've bulleted here, but there's a lot to unpack in the next 10 minutes. And please know that anything that I do talk about, it's my personal perspective, you know, on what's happening in the United States and the state of stained glass, art glass, and the creativity. I have been involved for over 35 years in glass art, and I have purposely put myself out into every opportunity that I could come across to meet artists in the field, to join organizations, and just to really see and read what I could to learn about this. So I feel like the things that I'm going to share, you know, they're backed with 35 years of being in love with this medium. The state of glass, you know, currently, or art glass in the United States, from where I sit, in the perspective that I sit, very, very active and very busy, and is very prevalent, and there's a lot of work to be had. I am immersed in liturgical work, yet I meet artists that are members of organizations that do a lot of private work, gallery work, public art, collaborative work with warm and cold glass techniques. We're seeing a lot of fusing and a lot of interest. So it's exciting on that front for us. We still need to come together and educate our clients and educate our strategic partners, continued conversations with architects, and the education goes back and forth. We're seeing that a lot of requirements are evolving with codes and buildings, whether they're on coastal properties or they're in areas that are impacted by earthquakes or hurricanes. So there's a lot to learn so that we can work in a symbiotic way and educate one another. I also feel, and I've always felt very strongly about the idea that both understanding business in terms of your career in art glass and the creative part of your journey have to have equal time to understand pricing, you know, working in collaboration with contractors and supporting trades, masons and other industrial glass applications, understanding marketing, understanding overhead, knowing codes, and how to sell your work. So I have spent a lot of time in my career really nurturing that part of what I do, and I feel that it has serviced me very well. So I'm more than happy to share what I know about that afterwards in questions. And also, I'm in total agreement with the need for high quality schools and education. As far as stained glass goes, there's no formal education for stained glass in the United States. The art schools that are, you know, that are offering glass, it's usually more in a warm glass, cast glass environment, blown glass. We're learning stained glass in a more traditional way in active apprenticeships. And we do have some fabulous outlets for learning at Pilchuck and Penland and Urban Glass. And being the past president of the American Glass Guild, we're a nonprofit organization with the mission of education. So it's very, very important to me. We offer scholarships nationally and internationally to support that. But there is a need for it. And I think in a collaborative way with glass contemporaries around the world, now that we just have finished the International Year of Glass, I think we need to come together and really address this so that we can bring along the younger generation. Next slide. So I actually kind of cut my teeth and learned glass in this environment with preservation and conservation when I began over 35 years ago. And that opportunity has underpinned my love of glass and the responsibility I feel towards caring for it, learning about it, and creating new work that has a better chance to live longer. And it's an ongoing process, because as we share now openly and internationally, we're discovering, we're making mistakes. You know, we're creating materials that will not last the test of time, removing lead from the materials, for example. Some of the codes that are happening are making it very difficult to make products that will live in an environment for centuries the way it once was. things aren't grandfathered in the way you would think. And so trying to think and be creative with, you know, what's currently happening can be a challenge. But I'm working closely with companies, nonprofit organizations like Partners for Sacred Places, which is an extraordinary organization that's helping liturgical spaces across the United States. It started in Philadelphia, but it is now a national effort. And it not only works directly with, you know, saving buildings, it also helps the community and the churches of how they interact with their communities at large and the value added that they bring to communities, and using their buildings for public resource. And they're open museums for people to come in and appreciate the artwork. And I'm very, very proud to be supportive of Partners for Sacred Places. We still have ongoing efforts towards standards and guidelines, you know, for the stained glass industry. We certainly follow the Department of the Interior for our guidelines, but there's no specific set. So we look to our international partners for how we protect and conserve and restore our stained glass here. So again, that's an effort that continues to be looked at by both the American Glass Guild and the Stained Glass Association of America. Education and training, again, that's something that'll probably be in every slide because it's so important to me. Now is the time, after the pandemic, how we've all learned to really interact internationally. More education is happening online. Resources need to be made available. And I think that this is something that's very, very important for the organizations to help cross promote and pollinate with this. And it just would keep our industry and our craft viable. Next slide. So I'm bringing this up for me personally because the International Year of Glass, although it was the year 2022, we just had a meeting. We continued to meet as a committee and a group. I was the co-chair for the regional organization and the RO7 out of 18 regional organizations worldwide. I was the co-chair here in the United States, and with a specific help with art and museum and how that interacted. Many of you may know of the International Year of Glass, some may not. The effort began in 2018, and by 2022, with a pandemic in the middle, we came on a life-changing year that celebrated material or glass as a material from the United Nations. Since 1957, the United Nations has selected an international year, and for the first time, a material was given that honor, and that was glass. So I ended up learning and meeting people from the industrial side of glass, the scientific side of glass, the museum, and also, you know, art glass, of course. I'm pleasantly proud to say that out of all of the people that participated, we were the loudest. We might have been the smallest piece of the pie as far as the art glass is concerned, but we certainly made ourselves heard. And it was fascinating to watch it unfold internationally. And I'm very, very proud to continue the age of glass with it. And I believe that it will be the resource that I am alluding to, or the conduit to bring this together and keep this conversation very much viable, and use it as a resource. Also, again, there's been opportunities, and there continue to be opportunities for collaboration. We had talked shortly after the first year that we would have a retreat environment, that we would bring scientists and glass artists together to talk about how important, you know, both of the information, the knowledge that we have should be shared. And again, I had the pleasure of bringing Narcissus Qualiata as one of the guest speakers for Science and Art. He was the keynote speaker for the National Day in Glass, the kickoff here in the United States in Washington, D.C. And I think one of the efforts that he's doing, which I would hope that masters in our field would consider doing this, and it sounds like, Joost, you're also offering to teach and share, is this transfer of knowledge. Narcissus is 80 years old, and he is concluding 5 years worth of recording all of his knowledge that he will share with future students, fusing. And it's an extraordinary body of work that's going to be out there for him and for all of us. And I just think the idea is so important that if we could somehow find funding to support masters who are willing to teach and record what they want to share, that's the creativity, that's the future. And so I'm here to jump on board and volunteer to be any part of that if somebody wants to have a further conversation about that. Next slide. And finally, a little bit about myself. I am not retired. I am working more than I've ever worked. And according to the United States, I could be retired if I wanted to, but it doesn't seem like that's something that's going to happen in the near future. I love what I'm doing. I'm the director of art development for Willett Studios. The home studio is in Winona, Minnesota. We just celebrated 125-year history. I am the director of art development, so I handle all new window sales. And with my background in historic conservation and restoration, I have been pulled into historically significant projects. The average age of the employees and my colleagues are in their 30s. I think my age upsets the apple cart, so you take the high number and the low number out of there, and it's very, very encouraging to see young glass artists coming into this trade. I volunteer on a regular basis. I was once asked, why do I do this? Why would I volunteer? And I know here in the United States, we have many opportunities to do it, with our children, volunteering in church, for schools, for public communities and volunteering. I happen to choose glass, and that's with the American Glass Guild. We are a 100% volunteer organization, and we are on our 17th year, and we'll have our conference in Grand Rapids, Michigan this July. Again, this strategic collaboration, I see it happening and unfolding at Willett's. We have we're just completing this extraordinary project with Bullseye Glass. They're making drapery glass for us, and it isn't something that's been taken on to the level that we're doing. It's a large project that I'm proud to say we are involved with Salt Lake City Temple. So it's been fascinating to watch of that and learn quite a bit about how glass is made, and I'm enjoying that. I've had several trips to Europe. I'm so moved by Reinhard Schmidt and his involvement with glass and his opportunity and what he brings to the table. I also think it's extraordinarily important, and I would encourage everyone to join as many organizations as you can so that you get a really broad understanding of what your glass artists, fellow glass artists are doing. I am a member of the Worshipful Company of Master Glazers and Painters, the American Glass Guild, the Association for Preservation, the Association of Consultants for Liturgical Spaces, BSMGP, Glass Art Society, Art Alliance for Contemporary Glass, the SGAA, and the Society of American Mosaics.
Thank you. That's
I really
very
appreciate it.
Sorry, go ahead, Kathy.
No, and just finally, it's just I teach glass painting. I think it's very important for me to give back and to honor all those that taught me. And I appreciate being able to share today.
Thank you very much for your presentation, Kathy. And now we're going to open floor for questions and answers. And we have question 1, and it's going to be to Joost. And the question is, with the rising cost of suppliers, such as glass and lead, do you have any insights, the financial strain of funding options for conservation and the new art? With the rising cost of supplies, such as glass and lead, do you have any insights on the financial strain? Do you find the cost is so high and does it affect your artwork?
Personally, I never had problems like that concerning conservation and restoration, but that's due to the fact that first of all, I work alone. So I have no staff to pay. And also, I had my income as a professor at university. So I could, in fact, work a little bit outside the commercial reality, and I could devote more time to my conservation work, even if it was not so well paid. So that's my personal situation. But also, a second thing is that conservation and restoration of stained glass in continental Europe, and I think it's the case also in Britain, gets very often subventions. When it is a listed monument, we get state subvention or regional subvention, and that makes also an important difference. And of course, I worked also for a lot of museums, and that means that when you work for a museum, they have their own conservation budget. But on the other hand, when we are speaking about non-listed monuments, about stained glass that is younger, 19th century, 20th century, that has still to be listed, I see quite a lot of problems for owners to find the appropriate financing, although there are also a lot of wonderful projects with crowdfunding and alternative financement. So at the moment, I see quite a lot of opportunities there. And because of the fact that stained glass is more and more appreciated, also because, for instance, last year, when we had the Year of the Glass, there were several initiatives in Belgium, exhibitions and also workshops, and the awareness is growing, as I already said. That means also that it's easier for certain owners to find the appropriate financement for the conservation and restoration of their stained glass.
Thank you. And could you please, Kathy, could you give a short answer as well to the same question? Do you think? Go ahead.
Actually, what strikes me about it is when you think of doing work, it could be 80% of the cost is labor, and so the actual material cost is small compared to the project itself. So I think I would remind people that are getting into it, it's your labor, that you have to value what your time is worth with your labor. And you can get creative with the materials, and you can have collaborative studio space to use kilns and equipment and whatnot. And some of the materials that you can use are recyclable. So, but not to underestimate the labor aspect of it. That's where a big chunk of the money is.
Excellent answer. And we have second question. It seems to me that we should approach School of Architecture for combined meetings to discuss our stained glass and learn from the architects what their requirements are. This question is for Joost.
I didn't understand it very well. Can you? So
the Brian O'Riordan is asking that it's better to have meetings with the School of Architecture for combined meetings to discuss our stained glass and learn from the architects what their requirements are. So I think he's asking whether stained glass artists should have combined meetings with the architects and to learn from each other what the requirements are.
Yes, well, that would help. That would help a lot if we could have more contacts with architects. The thing is that nowadays stained glass artists, they always come in the end. When there is something wrong with the building, too much light, not enough light, too much color, not enough color, too much radiance, or any problem that finally the building is that there is with the building, then they come to a stained glass artist and they say, can you do something about it? Because curtains are not working here. So and then we have to solve a problem that could have been solved when we would be involved in the planning in the beginning, when they are starting to design a building or when they are starting to restore a building. It would be much better if we are not coming in the end, but in the beginning. And then we can show the architects the possibilities, traditional possibilities and innovative possibilities. And we could discuss in what way we could go. And of course, architects would then be able also to communicate their codes and their concerns and their budgets. So that would help a lot. I just give one example of a project I'm doing at present. So the building was finished and all the windows were glazed with triple glazing. And now they asked me to make a huge stained glass window, not leaded, but let's say it's painted on float, but a huge window. And all the installed glass has to be taken out and replaced by my own work, which is of course crazy because the material that has been inserted is in fact lost. It's crazy in terms of sustainability, and it's also crazy in terms of losing time.
Yes, thank you. And Sophie Hake is asking question. I was interested to hear that there are great interest, importance in the spiritual dimension of glass. Could you unpack that a little in terms of how do you see that manifested in opportunity for design, theological reflection in design?
Is that for me or?
It's for you, Kathy. So Sophie is asking what the spiritual dimension of the glass, what does it mean to you? And how do you see the design of spiritual, presumed churches? How does it manifest in opportunities for design, theological reflection in design? Do you actually use that?
Yeah, so there's several projects that are, leads, if you will, right now, where we have a client that wants to capture in glass art the moment of the great exchange, the crucifixion, and imagine that in a contemporary, and they said contemporary with a lot of color, for a 6,000 seat worship space. And I think to myself, how can we, start this dialogue or this conversation? We just finished an exhibition at Bethany Lutheran Church, and we're going to bring in the young Christian artists and bring them into almost like as a guest designer, and show them here's the size, here's the specification, here's the actual theme, and bring this creative space, and how do we address this? How do you begin? And you think of the structure, you design around structure. And I agree with Joost, you have early conversations in context to be in buildings before they build a window, and then have you come in afterwards. And also to educate our clients that we need time to actually create these works. I think that's a bigger issue with the clientele out there not realizing how much time it takes to create this artwork, and putting us into the schedule. But there's a lot of opportunity for creative input spiritually in projects. It takes time and research.
Thank you, Kathy. And Joost, would you like to quickly respond to this question as well?
Yes. I think it's important that we know that beside religions, people are also people are spiritual. It means that they it is not always linked with specific religions. It could also be linked with just the longing for light in each person's life. And I believe very much that the beginning of the stained glass tradition was much more a question of light in sacred place. And later on, the narrative approach started. But the beginning of stained glass is in fact a longing and a search for light, and also to find comfort, to find a certain comfort, to find a certain peace through the experience of light. Unfortunately, we see little studies now in the field of, I would say, in the field of people dealing with anthropology and historians and so on, really looking to what does it mean, people who need a certain experience of light and of course also darkness. And even when there are any studies on that, anthropological studies or sociological studies, they are very seldom translated towards the field of stained glass. Although I think that stained glass artists are the best placed craftsmen to answer these questions and to fill in the needs.
Thank you. Thank you. And we have a question from our master, Keith Barley. He's asking, many art colleges have closed their glass courses due to lack of demand. Do you have suggestions on how we can engage future budding glass artists, craft people to enter our profession? This was actually my question, so I'm so delighted that Keith is asking. So this question to both of you, how in practical terms can we encourage our next generation through somehow engagement in schools to look for some natural talents and to bring the talents from this perhaps primary or secondary school and bring those young artists into the craft, into the profession of stained glass? This is the last question to both of you, please. A very short answers, please.
Well, I see very good initiatives everywhere, but one of the most important examples, is the Cité de Vitrail in Troyes, where they have their special program for children and youngsters. So it's a wonderful place. It opened just a year ago, and they do special efforts for children and youngsters with workshops, etc. And when I can start my own center, and I hope that I can start it, in my business plan, there is also a special focus for children and youngsters, because that's the way it will not happen in other schools. We will have to do it ourselves, I think.
Excellent answer. So the website is Vitra. You will give us the website to that thing. And Kathy, would you like to quickly answer the same question
Yes.
about the next generation?
I think what's extraordinarily important is that we impart the message to the younger people coming into glass art that getting involved in art, glass art is a viable career choice.
Excellent.
And that they support, the companies support, and also have conversations with schools that offer credit and opportunities for some of these young students to do internships, but they get credit for the time they spend, while they're in schools. So it's to have dialogues and conversations, but more importantly, that it's a viable career choice.
Excellent answer. And now I would like to invite our Clark Liz to give us the upcoming events. And please, Liz, welcome.
So hello, good evening, everybody. And thank you very much, Joost and Kathy, for those very, very interesting talks and answers to questions. As a Glazier's company, so for the benefit of members and for the benefit of those who might be interested in joining, we have a very full program each year. Our new membership year is about to start when the next master is installed at the end of this month. And then I've put up some of the things that are coming up in the next 3 or 4 months. They are a mix of events that are of general interest, like the tour of Lambeth Palace Library, and things which are more specifically aimed around stained glass, such as the Stevens Prize giving on the 18th of March, which is a competition that we run for new and emerging glass artists. There's also, not on that list, but in March, we are spending a long weekend in Oxford looking at stained glass in a number of the Oxford colleges, including in particular in Oxford Cathedral in Christchurch College, where a new window has very recently been installed by one of our senior members, the glass artist John Renchens. And in the autumn, we are very much hoping to go to Paris and to spend a day while we're there going over to True and having a look at the Cité de Vitrail, which I think will be a real highlight of the coming membership year. If anyone is interested, then our website is at glazierscompany.org, and there's an application form and lots more details there, or anyone is very, very welcome to contact me. And I'll be sending these round everyone who booked to attend, but this shows some of the links, some of the sites for where you can see some of the glass that's featured in tonight's discussion, both from Joost in Antwerp and from Kathy in Philadelphia, and also a YouTube chat that she has referred to. So over to you, Mariana.
So what an interesting presentation. I really enjoyed, and it's so lovely that we can have your slides, and we're looking forward to hear more from you. This is just the first webinar. We're probably going to continue our discussion. And as I said earlier in our preliminary meetings, we're going to have a monthly meetings from now on with artists and the lovers of glass and friends. And we're going to try to get the mixed media going, so you can be also once a month present at our monthly meetings. And otherwise, our webinar is coming to the end. Thank you very much, Joost. Thank you very much, Kathy. Thank you very much, David and Liz, and all our wonderful participants who are from all over the world. Thank you very much for attending this webinar. And I will see you soon in the future. And please keep in touch and have a lovely evening. A goodbye until the next time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.